Is there anything better than a trip getting ready?
Nope.
For a long journey where our podcast released a new epi, searching for a fade fiend, new fixation. Giving this a subscribe is the same sensation. Started with the day ones, they gave us fuel to support the season. Could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here for a reason. Notification bells, text your friends, all to let you know. Check your Bluetooth, connect, talk your wisdom out of.
Welcome in, everyone. Episode 30. I got 30 reasons why I can tell y'all that you don't want to get my next guest mad at you. This is titled, "You Don't Know What You Do to Me." Yeah, I don't get paid for the comedy, folks. But we're here with Olympian Nina Cutro-Kelly. Nina, how the heck are you doing so far today?
Well, thanks for having me here today. I'm doing pretty good. I actually have kind of a slow day with my real job and managed to get a BJJ workout in this morning. So that's always a positive if I can get my workout in early. So I think I'm doing pretty good for today.
We're going to get into some other stuff, but let's go back into that. So Nina, not only when you touch me, you're going to throw me, but then you're probably going to jump on top and then torture me some more, maybe choke, some wrist locks, some arm bars, and you're going to beat me a little bit more?
Well, let's put it this way. Funnily, I'm a judo player by my main background, but I have practiced freestyle and folk style wrestling, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, as well as sambo, which is kind of a Russian hybrid sport between a bit of every type of grappling. So in judo, I was actually known for really liking groundwork, which has become pretty funny when I transition to BJJ, when they're like, oh, she doesn't know anything. And by BJJ standards, I am completely lost, but I do really enjoy groundwork. So my go-to would be more of arm bars and pins, although I do know a few chokes. Yeah.
Okay. By the way, I intend to laugh at every one of your jokes. I do not want to get you mad after you just ran all that down. That's really cool. What are your thoughts on the fastest growing high school sport is girls wrestling now, since you do have a little bit of that in your background? Did you get an opportunity growing up?
Well, that's actually a loaded question there. I did judo starting around the age of 7, and by the time I was about 12, I was looking for ways to cross train, and I joined my middle school's wrestling team. But at the time, they only had boys, and I was allowed to practice with them for a fair bit of time. And it was funny because I came in with judo background, and they were all pure beginners in wrestling. So I was actually kind of teaching them some judo stuff because, judo and wrestling are kind of cousin sports. And sure. I just remember that after the preseason was over, the athletic director was like, yeah, well, now you and the other girls, you have to pass this physical fitness test. And in order to be allowed to be, declared safe to train with the boys. And they asked us to run 2 miles in 12 minutes, which is a 6-minute mile. No. And then they asked us to bench press body weight. No. And I could bench press my body weight, but I couldn't run a 6-minute mile. And then the other girl who could run a 6-minute mile couldn't bench press her body weight. And so they kicked us out. And I kind of just cut my losses and went on to wrestle in clubs against girls in like club wrestling. And then I went on to do state championships and national championships. But I always kind of had like a grudge about that because I felt like I was better qualified at the time than a lot of the boys. And, they were just old school and sexist. So I love the fact that, especially in Texas right now, girls wrestling is exploding. And I think that it's a great opportunity because it's a great sport. And it's, the more the merrier if we can get girls involved in it. We've had a lot of success internationally in women's wrestling as the United States. So why not? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What a 6-minute mile. I have a fraternity brother that tried out for a college football basketball team, and they had to run 6-minute miles. So I don't see how the similarity is that a middle schooler and a basketball player should be able to run 6-minute miles. That's insane. I am sorry to hear that. What a waste. Well, and look what they lost. I bet.
Well, it was their loss, and it got me focused back on judo. So, I mean, in the end, that's the better choice. But I'm still a little salty about that.
Yeah. So you guys gained international acclaim when Ronda Rousey came over and she did MMA. Mm-hmm. Tell me that was not like an explosion of interest in your sport. What was there an uptick when she got famous?
Yeah, I mean, people started to understand and know that judo was not karate. That's my least favorite question is if somebody asks me to do a judo chop, I'm like, oh, please, just leave me alone. I don't want to talk about that. But I guess, yes, there was a big explosion of interest coming from Ronda's transition into MMA, into judo. But again, that was a while ago. We're still looking at almost a decade ago when she transitioned into MMA. So I think judo needs tough people because it's hard. And that's the biggest difference. BJJ attracts people because you get the good workout, you get the hard training, you get to learn, submissions and stuff like that, but you're not taking a lot of falls. And I can tell you from my own experience, taking a lot of falls is what, separates, the real people from the wreck people in elite judo, because it does a job on you and your body gets worn out. And so that's why you see a lot of, former high level judo players that get their workouts in at BJJ because there's a lot fewer falls to take. Yeah.
Give me 1 second. I just want to cross this off on my list. Don't ask her to do a judo chop. Just cross that off. All right. So I know that a lot of people they're so curious. My background, I started in karate. I saw kung fu. I fell in love with it. Never went back to karate. I hated it too because my karate instructor was like, "He's just amazing," but just the flow, the way kung fu looked, it just sold me. So I'm kind of curious for you. You started. I think you said that you started at the age of 7. Mm-hmm. What made you go this way? Because you're right. Everything, the most popular stuff is kung fu because of Bruce Lee, karate, Chuck Norris. You don't hear judo. You don't hear that.
So I was fortunate in that my dad had done judo as a teenager. And I can tell you exactly how me starting judo happened. I had a downstairs neighbor when we were about 7 years old, and we used to play Ninja Turtles together. And he had karate lessons, and I wanted to be able to go to karate because, like, we would play with Ninja Turtles, and then we would play fight in the backyard, and like little kids do. And my dad was like, "Oh, no! If you're going to do a martial art, you're going to do judo." And that's how I started in judo when I was 7, and I loved it right away. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. So you I'm sure sometimes people kind of confused and they were like, "Oh, karate," and then you had the interest. When is judo going to get its international fame? Did I miss anything? Like, you guys don't have a cartoon. I'm trying to think of a figure. There's nobody. Even Hong Kong Fooey. I thought that was judo, but his name is like Hong Kong Fooey. Like, there's nothing, right?
There's nothing that we hear about in the United States. That's one thing. I lived in France for about 8 years, and Teddy Riner, who is, the Michael Jordan of judo, he's, famous for decades at this point, and he's one of the top French heavyweight judo players. He is the top French heavyweight judo player for men. And in France, I mean, he sells, breakfast pastries, and he sells stuff on TV, and he's their Under Armour representative in commercials. So other countries do a much better job of showcasing judo to the general public than the United States does. The United States, judo is unfortunately kind of pushed into a corner as a niche sport. which is unfortunate because we've got a really good wrestling tradition in the United States, and we've got a very large population of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But for whatever reason, judo is kind of pushed into a corner, and that's unfortunate because other countries, judo role models and idols get a lot more screen time, so to speak.
I'm curious on the direction of judo that you've seen. This past weekend, I was in Dallas at the Dallas Judo Open and the President's Cup. The Judo Open, they had 10 mats at the Judo Open, and they said they had almost 1,000 competitors. And then the next day at the President's Cup, they said they had over 1,100. And from what I'm told, that's one of the biggest turnouts they've had at that tournament. Do you see that maybe it's starting to turn the corner a little bit and gaining popularity?
I think we're still coming back from COVID and everything being so shut down, and we're still having the number of events which happen in the United States has not nearly recovered to pre-COVID levels. So people are excited to get to any competition. So you're seeing bigger populations at competitions just because there's fewer to hit. And so people are really going out of their way to make it to these events. That being said, the Dallas Invitational is always a very big event. I mean, I've never seen those numbers under 800. So it's always a big number. But those 1,100 is a pretty good number for the President's Cup. So, I mean, yes, there's large numbers, but the level is still definitely in need of development for sure. Yeah.
Nina, I'm not an Olympian, and you know that. But I've been pretty successful athletically. And I know some judokas here and there, and they tell me to come out with them. And I tell them I'm too old and brittle. I got too much going on. Is judo a young person's sport to get into? I hear like BJJ, for instance. I know some older people that join it. But I bet it's hard to get, I'd say, a 30 or a 40-year-old to start judo, correct? Because of the falls?
If you want to have success at the international level, you need to start young. That's not to say that there's not a place for everybody in judo. And that's one of the things I feel very strongly about, is that anybody can start judo at any point in their life and benefit from it, I feel. But if you want to be successful internationally, I think you probably shouldn't start any later than like your early teens. Yeah. There's just a lot to learn, and there's a really high level to break into. The only thing I would say that maybe be the exception is if you were already a pretty high level wrestler. We've taken some wrestlers that were, even college age and turned them into pretty high level judo players. But again, they've got a basis in grappling that they developed from a young age. But that's not to say, I mean, we've had people that started judo in their 30s, in their 40s, that went on to have success in masters divisions and veterans. We've had people that got into kata, the demonstration form. We've got people that were successful coaches that started later. So it's not, there's me saying that you need to start young to be elite should not stop anyone, because it's a great sport for anyone. Mm-hmm.
All right. My background, I wrestled, told you about the Kung Fu, played a little semi-pro football in Germany, lived in Korea for a year. I say all that to let you know, I've lived in a lot of different countries. Now, we know most people around the world would think, Americans are amazing at basketball. But I need to hear from you, Nina Cutro-Kelly. What is the best country for judo? I gotta know.
So that is a loaded question again. So first of all, Japan, hands down, they invented the sport. They have the most depth to all their divisions. Yeah. And at any point, you can see a high-level Japanese player break into any division. Now, that's not to say that there aren't other superstar countries that we see a lot of success from. The French women on the heavier weights and down to the lower weights. On the French women's side, we see a lot of success. The Georgian men are very, very successful. The French men are quite good. The Korean men are quite good. And you see some of the women that come through there are pretty successful. Chinese women in the heavier weights. Cuba can always have a really strong player come out, and they're really good to fight. And Brazil has a pretty strong, solid team on both the men and the women's side. And then, Russia's Russia. They've always had some good players throughout the years. And there's been a pretty much a sprinkling amongst the divisions on both the men's and the women's side. But in the absence of Russia from a lot of competitions, Georgia has come through on the men's side. Mm-hmm.
I believe in population theory, and it's a little shock to hear little old small Cuba could get that much love. Baseball, I understand, they give us a lot of baseball players, but I'm shocked to hear that Cuba could have some great judo players. That's a shock to me.
Yeah, they've always been good though. They've been good at wrestling. They've been good at judo. You get some boxers. So yeah, no, there's definitely a good Cuban presence in the combat sports. Mm-hmm.
What country do most people say, okay, I can put that one on the resume? I beat a couple of Russians in this tournament, or I feel like there's some acclaim to be out there. I've seen some French highlights, but I guess if you beat a Japanese player, you kind of, that's something to be proud of. Or is it Japan?
Well, it is provided that they're, relatively high ranked. I mean, you can get Japanese players that are 4, 5, 6 deep in their divisions, and you can get a club player or a university player who's very, very good, and they just don't leave Japan for competitions just because there's just so much depth over there. That being said, if you beat someone that's from Japan, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're amazing. They could just be, a regular old, psychology student that's on term abroad, and they did some judo. So you kind of have to know their background before you get all excited about who you've beaten.
Oh, Nina, you just ruined it for me. I ran track and cross country in college in Florida, and we don't have a lot of elevation, as you know. And one time I I beat a Kenyan. And that is the story that I carry with me for life. When I tell any American, hey, I beat a Kenyan, automatically they're like, oh, you must have been fast. And that you just negated that. So would you be okay with me going back and striking that from the record so my family and friends still think I'm awesome?
That's all right.
All right. So I got to know, the moment you, okay, I'm gonna go at this the wrong way, but I just gotta know. The moment you found out that you qualified as an Olympian, was your mind blown at that moment? Did it hit you all at that moment? I feel like it would just, the rest of us, mind blown.
So, the background on that is I had actually thought that I didn't qualify, that I had narrowly missed qualification. What? And so I was very close the whole quad for the qualification, but I thought I had just missed by a tiny bit. So from about the beginning of middle of June until the beginning of July, so there was about 11 or 12 days, I was just like, okay, I need to move on with my life. I was going to yoga. I went and got some PRP, which is similar to stem cells. I got that in my arm because I was having some issues with a tendon in my arm. And I got a call from the director of high performance for USA Judo. And I thought it was like, oh, we got to like straighten out your room, or like something happened, like we moved the mini bar, and like they thought we owed the money. It's anything. And things like this do happen. You're like, oh, you let somebody take a shower in your room and they made a mess and now you're on the hook for it, whatever. And so he calls and he wanted to be on a conference call with my coach. And I was like, I must be in really big trouble.
Yeah.
And then, because I mean, like, here I am, I'm 36 years old. Like, why are you looping my coach in on this? Like, what have I done? And that's when they told me I made the Olympic team. And my first reaction was, oh my gosh, I've got to get out of work, because I had, thinking I didn't qualify, I booked myself up for the summer for work.
Oh.
So then it was the space of a few days where it kind of sunk in, where I had just had the PRP in my arm. And so I wasn't actually allowed to train for a couple more days. And I was like, it's going to be so busy. I'm going to actually have to take the summer off of work completely and set everything up. And about 3 weeks later, I left for the Olympics. So, yeah.
Okay. Going to the Olympics, was there a moment at the Olympics where, okay, you just kind of got caught up in the moment and the bright lights, and you just, it's an out of body experience. Did you have that one singular moment, and when was it?
Honestly, there's not much that like phases me like that. Like, I don't get like the, some people, like, they see a celebrity and they're like, oh my God, this person, or they see like a sports hero, like, oh my gosh, this person. I'm like, honestly, I don't get excited like that. I mean, there were some moments where I was like, oh wow, this is like impressive. I think walking into the stadium and opening ceremonies and just seeing how like big everything was, and we made it. Like, this was the proof we made it. That was kind of impressive. And then also competing in Japan, the birthplace of judo, that was pretty awesome. So that feeling was really, really special. Mm-hmm.
Who was the friendliest competitor / country? Just
friendly. So that's actually really funny. So I don't think it's a country or competitor. I think it's a weight class. In heavyweight, my weight class, we're all nice to each other because we're not starving. And that's like a huge difference and a huge departure from when I fought under 172. And everybody was on a diet, and I was in the worst mood ever for like a decade. I hated my life. I hated everybody around me. And I didn't want to talk to anybody. And so moving up into heavyweight, everyone's like, oh yeah, we ate breakfast this morning. I had a snack and we're about to get on a scale. And so I think heavyweights are probably more friendly than the average judo player.
Wow. I never really thought of it like that, because I always look at Olympians and, especially, those track athletes, the sprinters, they just look so starved. I mean, they're so ripped, and yeah, they're probably pretty cranky.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, as long as you're allowed to eat and drink, I think you're generally probably pretty friendly. But I'm sure in the moment, a lot of high level athletes get cranky, but not heavyweight judo. I mean, until you actually have to fight them, you know.
So you came back home from the Olympics. Was your life the same? Were there a lot of paparazzi, family members? What was the biggest thing you noticed when you got back?
So the biggest thing I would say is from the time I qualified or found out that I qualified to roughly a couple months after the Olympics, there was constant like media interviews, podcasts, that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. But what changed the most about my life is it's so hard to qualify for the Olympics in judo that's like the feather in your cap at the end of your career or at some point in your career. And for me, it was the only thing I hadn't done. Like, I'd been to the World Championships, I'd been medaled in the Pan American Championships, I medaled in the Pan American Games. And for me, that was what made a difference in being able to market myself to give seminars, get private lessons. Yeah. And it also allowed me to apply to the LA28 fellowship, where I was able to get some hands-on project management experience. It got me my current job at Move United, where we work in managing competitions for adaptive sport. Yeah. It really opened up a series of opportunities for me, just the fact that I'm an Olympian. And so that was really cool, because I'd spent, 20 years trying to make the Olympic team and 20 years looking at different ways of existing in this world. I was an ESL teacher. I organized exchange programs. I did translation. I did a lot of different things. And so having the Olympian title allowed a lot of opportunities to open up for me, which got me to where I am 2 years later. So I'm happy about that. Yeah.
That's cool. Sounds like you've also had some competitions in different countries. What are some of the countries that you've gone to compete in tournaments in those countries?
Oh, most competitions in the past 10 years have been outside of the United States. I have not competed regularly in the United States in well over a decade. Well, because in order to qualify for the Olympics, we have to compete at international ranking events. So they're very rarely located stateside. The only events that I ever did in the United States since, I want to say maybe 2009, was Dallas, because there was prize money, and the nationals, because I wanted to have 10 national titles. And then I didn't go to nationals after I got my 10th title. So generally, anything that qualifies you for the Olympics is going to be outside the United States. So I've been frequently to Canada. I've been Peru, Chile, Mexico. We've even been to Cuba a few times. In Europe, France, Germany, Spain, Portugal, and then with sambo, the whole former Soviet Union. So Belarus, Georgia, Russia, Ukraine, Tajikistan, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, you name it.
Yeah, a bunch of stands.
The stands, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's so cool that you got over there, especially the former Soviet bloc. While you were over there, any American jokes, any stereotypes they thought of you, or anybody lob anything to you? Just curious.
Honestly, I have to say, judo, sambo, sports bring the world together. There is some truth to that. Yes, they can be politicized. Yes, they can be, used for less good reasons. But I've never had anything negative from someone from another country. If we were all at a sambo tournament or a judo tournament together, we generally were pretty friendly with each other. That's not to say that things don't happen, but in general, I mean, people will ask you sometimes, about your president, and that could have been any of the presidents that we've had in the 20 years of my career. And you kind of just say, all right, well, our politics aren't our people. It's kind of like that all over the world,
Yeah. Okay. Of all the places that you've gone to compete, what was your favorite city?
That's a good question. I'll
give you an honorable mention. So I'll give you your favorite and then an honorable mention, if that helps.
All right. Paris is my favorite because it's in France, where I feel quite comfortable because I lived there for a while, not in Paris, but I lived in the west of France. And then Prague in Czech Republic is the honorable mention. That is a beautiful, beautiful city. And I just generally love the whole atmosphere there.
Did you bring back any crystal figurines from the Czech Republic? I heard that's pretty big there.
We looked at them. You don't get a lot of chance to go shopping or anything like that on these trips, but we did walk around, got some food, and we saw some shops that were selling the crystals. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So I am going to go backwards here. You're in high school. You walk into the cafeteria. What table are you sitting at? Are you sitting with the jocks? Sitting with the nerds? Are you sitting with the band geeks? I don't know. They're all labels that we all have. Where do you sit, Nina Cutro-Kelly?
Probably with like the 8 advanced placement nerds. That would be me.
Whoa, that was you, huh?
Yeah, I was like pretty good at school. And I think I found, community and other people that like learning stuff. The whole jock thing, not so much, just because judo wasn't offered in school and I kind of separated myself from the wrestlers at that point. But I, had friends that would go work out, do the intramural sports or use the weight room, etc. But probably most of my friends that I've kept in touch with the advanced placement, geeks and nerds that all like school.
Let me see how nerdy. I'm going to do a little nerd test here.
Okay.
Have you ever played Dungeons and Dragons with your friends?
Oh no, I don't play video games. That is one way that I was very different from the rest of the crowd. Can't sit still for a video game.
All right. How many of the Harry Potter books have you read?
All of them and seen all the movies.
Okay. All right. Do you watch or have you participated in anime?
No. I can't handle anime, which is, I know it's weird with the judo, but I can't do anime.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I had you on that one. What? Okay, this one's a little weird, and a lot of this I have in common. I'm already on the register of nerdom, but if you're invited to a cosplay event, are you going? And what would you dress as?
I'd go. I don't know. Maybe I'd dress as something from Planet of the Apes or something. I don't know. I like those movies. Yeah.
Yeah, those are great. Wow. Think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good. So you like the old school Planet of the Apes or the new stuff, the new version?
I like both of them. Yeah.
And you're just a fan.
But I like monkeys. And the reason I like monkeys is because they use their feet like humans use their hands.
Yeah.
And that's kind of part of how I do judo. Like, is I use my feet to like sweep and to grab, both standing and on the mat. And so that was kind of like where the whole Instagram monkey judo came from. Was like, I was like, oh, well, if I was a monkey, this is how I would be doing judo. And then it kind of just evolved to that. And it, you know, people knew it was my Instagram handle, so I never changed it.
Yeah. I'm sure you had to explain that a lot.
Yes, definitely. Yes, it comes up a lot. And I just don't want to change it now on principle. So, yeah.
So I think you had a dog. So what's your favorite animal? If you could be an animal, what would it be? Would it be a monkey?
It'd be a monkey, yeah. I love dogs. Shouldn't have a pet monkey, but I would love to have one someday if I could like pay a babysitter to watch it.
Yeah.
But no, I would probably want to be a monkey if I could be an animal.
Yeah. Yeah, in Kung Fu, we had this a form. It was called Monkey Style, and it's so much fun to do. And you got to nail it though. You got to. It takes so much practice. It's a higher level. You've probably seen it, maybe if you've watched some Kung Fu movies, but that's about the only thing I can think of monkey related. Have you ever seen Bloodsport with Jean-Claude Van Damme?
Ooh, that's going back a long time ago. I know what the movie is, but it's been a long time. Yeah.
Okay, because there was a guy that it wasn't monkey judo, but it was like, I believe it was monkey kung fu. Maybe I gave you something to do next time you get reined in to check that one out.
I'll check that out.
So that brings me to my next question. Who is the most badass martial arts star? Steven Seagal, Chuck Norris, Bruce Lee, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Jet Li. Who do you got? Who's your money on?
Oh gosh. It's hard to answer that because I don't really follow much of that. I like Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan. Yeah, I liked all the Rush Hour movies, but I mean, I don't know because I know what goes into doing stunt work. So because I've helped people with stunt work before. So I'm like, a lot of that's fake. I mean, yes, there's definitely legitimate martial arts involved, but a lot of that's fake. But I do like Jackie Chan movies. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that was my pick. And I didn't want to lead you with that. All right. Someone is going to come to you and they're going to say, I want an Olympian in a movie. Nina Cutro-Kelly, we like you. We like your swag. We love your style. We want to pick you up on a movie. And then this could lead to a deal, but we got to get this first one. But we want you to be comfortable. What do you want this movie? What genre?
I mean, it could be a comedy. I like comedies.
Hey.
Yeah. And I could be pretty funny. So yeah, I'd act in a comedy. Yeah.
Now, knowing that you know how to break fall, what are you going to do? A little physical comedy too? Can we get some?
Oh yeah, no. We can do slapstick. Anything you want to do, I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Yeah, a little Chevy Chase.
Yeah, for sure, no problem.
Known for that. Okay, let's come right back. I want to know a little bit more. Let's get to music. What are you listening to here if you were to jump in your car right now, what was the last thing you had on? What's your satellite radio station? What do you like to listen to?
Oof. There's a lot of 80s and 90s music. I like Metallica. No, old school Nirvana. Like I like 90s music for the most part. But yeah, that's most likely what's going to be on my radio station.
All right. Olympians. Now that you're an Olympian, by the way, you're on my top. But what would be your top 5 Olympians? Dead or alive?
Top 5 Olympians.
And you don't have to be judo.
Who? Top 5 Olympians. I like Usain Bolt. He's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
There is Tamura, who was a very famous Japanese lightweight judo player. She was very, very successful. I think her married name was Tani, Tani, Ryoko Tamura Tani, and then so she was pretty impressive. We have currently in my weight class, Idalis Ortiz from Cuba, who is getting ready for her 5th Olympics, and she's done 4 Olympics and has 4 Olympic medals, a gold, 2 silvers, and a bronze. And she's just really impressive how long she's stuck with the sport and how successful she's been, for now almost 20 years. There's 3. Who else is there's a judo player from Portugal, Jorge Fonseca, who's got really good explosive judo and really good foot sweeps. So I really like his judo a lot. And then if you're going to give me one more Olympian, gotta think about that for a second. We could go with you go with Teddy Riner because he's French and he's a heavyweight judo player and he's been the guy to beat for almost 20 years at this point. So yeah, they're mostly judo players, but I like Usain Bolt because he's really fast.
Nothing wrong with that. What would your peers say to describe you? It could be your work peers, it could be your judo peers, but the people who know you the best, what would they say to describe you?
I think my closest friends overall would say that I definitely have crazy ADHD. And that I get hyperfixated on things involving judo, animals. I'm really into weird animal news, like the orcas that are like capsizing boats or something like that. I keep up on
I've been noticing that. Yeah.
The ocean's trying to get us. The whole like submarine that was driven with the Nintendo thingy and the billionaires and that whole thing. I stay up on weird news. So my friends would definitely say that I have ADHD and I have interesting hyperfixations. And I think the judo players would say that I'm definitely quirky, but funny. So that's what I think they'd say about me.
If you could go back to the 7-year-old who was just starting judo and give her some advice that she could carry with her throughout, what would you tell her?
Never give up, because you've just got to, if you're consistent and constant in doing your best every single day, then no matter if you reach your initial goals, you're still going to end up somewhere good. Even if you don't reach where you started off wanting to go, you're still going to end up better off than if you had no goals. So you need to just be consistent and constant in trying to reach the goals that you have, because even if those goals evolve, you're still going to end up better off than if you had no structure plan in the beginning. Yeah.
Okay. We're going to go somewhere really different.
Okay.
You're growing up. Where did you grow up at?
Albany, New York.
Whoa. Wait, do you got, is that the capital?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. And you guys get technically 4 seasons?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you have all 4 seasons. Yep.
All right. So growing up with all of that snow that you guys get, I'm gonna say every Christmas you get a white Christmas.
Not every, but often. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Are you guys overlooked by those people down south in New York City? Do you feel that way?
I mean, they say the real New York is New York City. Like if you say that, you have to clarify I'm from upstate New York. But
Yes.
I don't think we get overlooked really. It's a different part of the state. You have to clarify it because everyone, if I say I'm from New York, they assume New York City. So I say, no, Albany, New York, the capital of New York State, and it is 3 hours north of New York City. So
is it a chore? Because I feel like all the commerce, all the attention is in New York. How do you guys persuade conventions, events to come all the way up there to Albany?
Well, I think it's because it's the capital of the state, and the reason for that was because it's less accessible from the ocean, which during the Revolutionary War, it was a good place to move things.
Yes.
So I mean, it's still a capital city, where a lot of things go down, related to government. But there's way more to do in New York City. I'll tell you that. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you're going to New York City. Which borough is your favorite?
I like Brooklyn because that's where my cousins live. And I could always go visit my cousin in Brooklyn. My sister used to live in Queens. I would go there too. Don't spend a lot of time in any of the other boroughs. So yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's Brooklyn or bust. There's nothing else. a little biased. You know what though? Whenever I go, I do kind of stay in Manhattan. But all right, you're going to retire one day. Where do you want to retire? Because you've traveled the world. Some of the places I'm interested in: Italy, Portugal, even Korea. There's really nice Koreans. My time there was just amazing. Where would you want to retire?
Either Martinique or Guadeloupe, which are French-owned islands, but I can go there with my passport, my French passport, and they're really relatively close to the United States, so I can get there. I can get back to the U.S. much more quickly than if I'm flying from Paris. I could work and live in an island, beautiful climate, and be not that far from home. And so I definitely have looked at both those places for retirement.
Do you think that sounds like a really slow lifestyle? Heck, you might not even be able to teach judo there.
You
sure?
can because it's France. It's France technically, and a lot of their best judo players come from there. But I could teach English because I speak French. I could just chill on the beach. I don't even know what I'll want to do at that point. Retirement's still 30 years from now. So I definitely don't want to do judo, but I could go to the beach and, drink pineapple juice or whatever,
I've been seeing that there's some judo athletes that have it's a red belt. Because, for those of us who are not in your game, we always think that the black belt is just like the highest. It's the biggest thing. I mean, you want to tell people, I'm a black belt. But there comes a point where there's like a black red belt or a red belt for a black belt.
All right. So there are different degrees of black belt. So first degree black belt to third degree black belt is just a black belt. And then in some, like in the USJA, as well as in France, you have fourth and fifth degree black belts are black and red. And then in USA Judo, USJA, USJF, all of the American organizations, as well as in France and other parts of the world, 6th, 7th, and 8th are red and white, and 9th and 10th are completely red.
Oh.
So that's you just kind of know that if you do judo, but that's why there's black belts start to turn red with different stripes and things like that after as a fourth degree black belt. Yeah.
Okay, so you liked the Ninja Turtles. You've got great taste. Most Americans, I think we wanted to grow up and be ninjas. How How much judo does a ninja know?
Not really sure. I mean, I'm sure any good samurai or ninja or somebody that can fight can throw somebody and do submissions and hold them down. So I'm sure that that was part of their training, but I don't know the specifics on it.
Okay, that was my way of feeling you out. That maybe you might have run into a ninja or two, and they said, "Hey, by the way, Nina, I'm actually a ninja, but you can't tell anybody." I was trying to trick you there. I thought I could.
It's all right.
And I was going to go to samurai next, but you already picked that out. All right, so I've seen some judo athletes practice, and I've seen them do a lot of like sumo wrestling for like a cross training or almost like a game. Mm-hmm. Would you say that that's a pretty smart thing to do, or is that pretty common?
That's a great game especially for little kids to just learn about staying up, because the big thing about judo is we don't want to get thrown down unless you're doing the throwing. So it teaches them to stay up. It teaches them to not go out of bounds. And it makes it fun because it's sumo. So yeah, even kids, and definitely even sometimes adults could benefit from that as cross training or some sort of a drill or a game for sure. Yeah.
Now, you can laugh at me. I think I'm about a 2-hour drive away from you, so I know you at least won't choke me out for asking this. And you've played along to this point. Is there a point in judo where you're almost like when you play basketball, you dunk and then hang on the rim? Because it seems like you get more points or the match ends if I throw you and then I roll over on top of you after. That means I like totally dominated you. Is that accurate?
Well, sort of. So if you throw someone, you're looking to throw them flat on their back. Okay. However, the distinction between throwing them half on their back, mostly on their back, all on their back, that's on the referee to call it. And so as an insurance policy, no matter how you throw the person, you want to land in a pin and secure the pin and have the person, restrained with a pin after you've done the throw, in order to make sure you get the full points for the win. Because if they call it a full point or a pawn and then change their mind and say it's wazari, which is a half point, and you've let go of them, you have to start over again. Whereas if you've transitioned to the ground and locked up the pin, then you're already there to finish up getting your points and get the full win. Yeah.
Oh, I have this theory. Here in America, we're missing out. We don't have our best athletes playing a lot of our sports. There are so many. I coach youth sports. I coach basketball. I've done that for a very long time now. I've coached flag football. I told you I played some semi-pro American football. We have a lot of our best athletes in America just focusing really on two sports, really. Basketball, football. I mean, like our amazing athletes. And you were telling me about these other countries, and I feel like Cuba, when they see some spectacular athleticism, I bet they're like, hey, wait, hold on. You're going to go either go wrestle or box or judo. What can we do to try to start swaying some of our best athletes? Or to your point, would you say, whatever, they'll come when they come. Let's just stick with the people who are interested. I feel like we could get more.
I think the biggest thing that other countries do well is it's a numbers game and it's an accessibility game. Judo's expensive. Martial arts, club-based sports are expensive. You've got to get grassroots, community center focused programs. You've got to get school-based programs or after-school programs. You have to get programs in place that cost little to nothing, because that increases access. And once you increase access, it becomes a numbers game. The more people you you allow to access judo, the more good people with potential you'll get, because it's just the statistics of it. And that's what France does well. They make it very, very, very cheap and very, very accessible. Same thing with Brazil. So most of the world presents kids with affordable judo opportunities that are hard to do in the United States. And one of the reasons we do that for basketball, we do it for Little League, we do it for, rec league soccer, is because those sports are more popular because they're more visible. And they also offer college scholarships, which we don't do as much of in judo. Yes. So, I mean, there's a lot of factors involved in why judo isn't as established in the United States. But the first step in making it, stronger would be to create, grassroots recreational level programs that are inexpensive to access.
Are there any things that the listeners, people that are listening to this podcast or watching us on YouTube, what could we all do? What message could we put out there? You said it yourself, it's hard for the falls. How does a parent get their kid interested and even the parent say, okay, Johnny, that was a hard fall. I know it was a hard day. You're crying. Get back in there. It seems like there's some helicopter parents. What can we do? How would you help us feel better about getting it more accessible?
I guess the biggest thing that I got told as a kid by my dad was, if it was easy, you wouldn't want to do it. And that kind of made sense, is that my dad knew enough about how my brain worked, was that if it was easy, I would have gotten bored with it already.
Sure.
And so the challenge of judo kept me coming back. And so that can be kind of translated to it's worth it because it's hard, because you wouldn't want to do something because it's easy, and only, to be a champion, you have to do hard things. So I guess that's the approach to take with kids is, okay, if you want to be a champion, you're going to have to do a lot of things that aren't easy, but that will make it worth it in the long run. Yeah.
We're going to go back to your formulation to become an Olympian. Were you always exceptional? You started at 7. So was the 10-year-old exceptional? Was she known throughout New York, or it took a while and it didn't click until 17 or 18 or something?
So I was always strong.
Okay.
Unusually strong for my size and my age. That being said, I was extremely clumsy. I'm still extremely clumsy off of the judo mat. I'm regularly getting hurt doing something around my house. But I probably transitioned to my current coach, Jim Herbeck in San Antonio, when I was 14. And so in the next 2 years, I went from, just training in the club to breaking into the junior rankings and starting to establish myself as a strong junior. I made the junior world team, and then I broke into the senior circuit. So I was probably late high school before that happened.
Oh. Was anybody interested in high school? Was it when I did Kung Fu? All I had to do was put out 2 chairs and do a split like Jean-Claude Van Damme, and everyone was a fan. And those I didn't get, if I did like a no-hand cartwheel, you see what I mean? Like that's Kung Fu, karate. Like it's easy to like wow people. For those who knew you in high school, was there a way to wow people?
No, because you have to throw somebody else. So there was nobody there to throw that I wouldn't get in trouble for throwing. So. Yes. Yeah, people kind of was like, oh yeah, Anita does that weird judo stuff. And that's kind of what they knew about me. The wrestlers kind of sort of understood what it was because it's, similar sport. But for the most part, my friends were just like, oh yeah, that's what Nina goes and does. And then we see her at school the next day. So there isn't all that much, all that many opportunities to wow people with judo when I was in high school. Mm-hmm.
Greco-Roman wrestling. How similar would you say that is to judo? Kind of more upper body since you're not necessarily attacking legs?
Well, yeah. So with the current judo rules where you can't grab the leg, so when you're from standing, there are similar ways that like people leverage, to break people's balance between Greco and judo. But the gi really changes things because of the gripping.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can still get into like a clinch with somebody in judo, but there's a lot of ways to maneuver using the gi and using gripping that don't translate because of the Greco-Roman. There's no gi. Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna go back to a little nerdum. I didn't want to like stay in that nerd lane. Are you Marvel or DC?
Ooh, I don't think I'm either.
Oh,
I mean, I'll watch any of them, but I don't think I'm either team. No.
wait a minute. Maybe we may have to. When's the last time you got that nerd card checked?
I don't know. I'm kind of like, I'm more of a jock now, but definitely I was like a school, a bookworm when I was a kid. So
No, we may that title may be rescinded. You just
may have
be
to take away
smart
my nerd membership card. So
Yeah, I don't hear anyone chanting one of us, but I don't hear that right now. You had us earlier, and I just ruined it for you. Now you're going to be mad at me when they come and take your nerd card. All right, Halloween. It's coming up. You have never dressed up as this, but you know you want to do it. What is that?
ooh, that is good. I'd like to figure out a way to be like floating, but use like one of those like Segway things.
Yeah.
But so I could be something that's floating, like some sort of apparition or something. However, I can't ride a Segway. So I've tried, I've borrowed my friends and I fell on my face. So I have to conquer that first. And then I could do something like that. But that'd be the only real idea I have.
Okay. I believe in stereotypes. They're fun. You being from Albany, New York, can you ice skate?
Oh yeah, I'm good at it too. I love ice skating. Yeah.
Can you play hockey, ice hockey?
I played field hockey a little bit when I was younger, so I mean I probably could play ice hockey better than most San Antonians because they don't know how to ice skate. Sure. But I'm not great at it. But I like to ice skate a lot. Yeah.
Okay. Winter comes. You're heading up north. What do you do first? Snow tube, snow sled, snowboard, ice skate. What are you doing first?
Ice skating, definitely. And then I like the snow tube or the tobogganing. Yes. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Do you get like invites to like the Winter Olympics by being a Summer Olympian? Are there any perks like that?
I mean, like I could sign up to volunteer or to be like on staff there or something helping out. But I mean, yes, it will help you get your foot in the door to be a volunteer or to work at the Olympics, etc. But we don't get like invites or tickets like just because we're Olympians. No.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. You are going to have an opportunity to go by plane, train, automobile across Russia. You just did a tournament in in St. Petersburg. And now there's this amazing tournament going on out in Siberia. And everyone's going. For some reason, you hear the chatter, everyone's going. Are you going by plane, by train, by automobile across?
First plane. But I don't mind the trains in Russia. Those are nice.
Yeah.
They actually have some pretty cushy trains. Definitely not car because I don't want to have to deal with the snow. Yeah.
Moscow or St. Petersburg? Which one have you been in?
I've been to both, but I've been to Moscow several times. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. I don't have much time left, but hold on. We're going down that vein. So Moscow, I heard that the subways are wicked deep. Like you're like 13 stories or something down there, and it's so ornate
They're like,
subway
they look like
station.
they should be a museum, but they're the Moscow subway system. Yeah. But no, really, it's beautiful. There's like beautiful paneling and painting. It really looks like you should be going someplace fancy, but you're just under the ground traveling. And they keep them really nice and warm. And you've got like little tunnels to go like under the road so you don't have to go out into the cold air. I'm a big fan of the subways. Oh yeah, no, it's heated. Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah.
They thought of everything when they made those. Okay. What city do you like more? And I just want to say this first. I've met a lot of people from St. Petersburg, and they always say, "Oh, I'm from St. Petersburg. You should go. It's beautiful." And I've met a lot of people from Moscow, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm from Moscow." So I say Moscow is New York City, and St. Petersburg is Miami, I guess. Sorry, everywhere else. What do you think is I'm going to say the prettiest? And I know that's very general. Moscow or St. Petersburg?
So I've seen the architecture in St. Petersburg, and it's gorgeous. I have to say, the only time I went, it was like January, so we had very little daylight, so I didn't get to see all that much of it.
Yes.
I did like the atmosphere. It seemed a little bit more chill than Moscow. Moscow was pretty busy, go. But there was a lot of beautiful architecture in Moscow too. So I can't really make a choice because I had good experiences both places. But I would like to see more St. Petersburg. Yeah.
Were there ever any countries that you competed in and you won over the crowd? Maybe some people were yelling, "Kelly, Kelly," or like any of that ever happened?
You know, in Russia, in Moscow, when I won the Sambo World Cup, they were cheering for me because I had already beaten the Russians, and then I was fighting a Japanese girl in the final, so they were cheering for me. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that is cool. Yeah. Okay, and we're going to finish with two last questions. So I always ask everyone, who is the most, I believe in 6 degrees of separation, who is the most interesting person you know, and what would you do to help me get them on this podcast? I didn't say famous, I didn't say rich. If they are the same, okay, cool. But who's the most interesting person when I say that word? And I put that emphasis on it. Who do you think of?
My mom's pretty interesting.
Oh,
yeah, I was gonna say that's pretty funny. But like, she started a business offering like traditional home birth services in Albany, New York, and she came from a pretty working class background in Brooklyn, downstate New York, and just her story of how she got involved in offering home birth services is pretty interesting. So she probably would be on a podcast. You just might have to book her a couple weeks in advance. Yeah.
I'm a fan. I'm already. And you said she's from Brooklyn. Yeah. My dad grew up in Bed-Stuy. I got family all over there. Washington Heights, Crown Heights.
Oh yeah, no, that I think she was born in Washington Heights. Actually, I'm not sure.
Hey, we're getting very close here. Very cool. Okay. Well, that second part is, what would you do to help me? You put in a word, say.
Oh yeah, no, I would tell her it'd be something cool to do for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then this is the last question on the way out. Nina Cutro-Kelly, what is left in your lifetime to accomplish? Like, where else do you go? Us normal people, we've already peaked at Olympians. I mean, I think I'd have a tattoo somewhere pretty visible, maybe on my neck, because I want everyone to know that. But like for you, clearly you're Superwoman. You're different than us normal folk. What else would you like to accomplish?
Well, I don't know if I'm different than other people because I'm kind of boring, my day-to-day life, I feel. But I have a couple things I'd like to do. I'd like to eventually get my black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I just got my purple belt a couple months ago after spending like 11 years at blue belt. So I've been working on my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu rank and learning more about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in general. Someday I would like to both have my own judo or grappling club. So I would kind of keep the styles open and keep it open for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, sambo, wrestling, and judo. And I would also like to own property so I can get as many animals as I can have on the property without without overwhelming my house. So I've got two dogs and a turtle right now, and my house is at full capacity. But I would like to have like as many animals as I could possibly get on my property. So someday I'd like to have some land. Yeah.
I just I was at the car wash and a snail was just scooting by. I probably almost stepped on it. So I reached down, I picked it up inside of my empty teacup that I had from a fast food restaurant, and I brought it home. I already have 2 dogs, but the most important, the coolest pet in the house that we talk about the most is a snail. We love this snail. I would have done a turtle. I've thought of a lot of other stuff, but we love having a snail, and it's so cool to see how slow he is, but then to see how fast he is.
Oh yeah, they do all kinds of interesting stuff. I love observing like any animal. Like I've pet sat for friends, and they had a bearded dragon, and they were like just chilling and like sleeping, and then they move super fast, and it's really fascinating. Yeah.
I know I said the last 2, but I'd be rude if I got you out of here. Are there any spectacular things going on? Anything that you wanted to pass along for our listeners to see you coming up on? And how could we follow you on social?
Well, so upcoming, I might compete in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the European Championships, which is open for anyone to compete in Paris in January, but I'm not sure on that yet. But the IBJJF European Championships I am looking at for next year in Paris, because it's a chance to go to Paris. And then you can follow me at Monkey Judo on Instagram, and that's usually the best way to keep up with me. I also have a Facebook page, but that's a little less interesting than my Instagram. So feel free to follow me on Instagram and message me any questions about judo. I'm always happy to answer.
Well, thanks, Nina. Thanks for not scoffing at me or spitting at your camera because I asked dumb questions because I don't know if you know anything about
There's
judo.
no such thing as a dumb question. Don't worry. And I've been asked a lot of interesting ones. Don't worry.
My dad has always said that. He always said that to us. But Nina Cutro-Kelly, you know what? I want to say this. You're my favorite Olympian. You don't know what you do to me, episode 30. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. You take care.
Have a great day.
Bye. Bye.